Welcome to Strange Weekly News. In this show, we'll be taking a look into the news and headlines to pick out curious reports of the strange, the weird, and the mysterious. Anything from UFO news to science advancements, the paranormal, and stuff labeled fringe science and fringe phenomena. Each news item we go over in the show, I will put all the links to them in the description box below once this live show is over, as well as chapters on the timeline index. Hello to everyone in the live chat watching this show live on YouTube. Zenza, Phantom, Jessica, Jonacide, Mark, David, welcome everyone. Creepy little book is here. Oh, so good to see you, my friend. And Jonacide, thank you so much. It says RV fun, hashtag ramen wagon. You betcha, which is like my new favorite thing to say, and it's becoming addictive to myself. But before we get started, I would like to mention that on Thursday on Mysteries with a History with Jimmy Church of Fate of Black Radio, we covered the mysteries of Australia. It's a crazy country, and we covered some really wild cases. And for those of you who like to chill with ambient space music, I did start a music channel called Cosmic Portals, where I post all of my original music right there on that channel to help you relax, sleep, meditate, whatever you want to do to wind down. This kind of music is going to help you out. The last track was actually a 3 hour long track, and I will place that link in the live chat a little bit later. But to help me with today's show, I have a dear friend, John Russell. John, how's it going?
Yeah, hi, Christina. It's always so great to be here. We're going to have a lot of fun. Greetings to you. Greetings to everybody in the chat. So happy to be here. Let's rock it.
Let's go for it. And let's start with we've heard from time, well, no, I wouldn't say from time to time, but like recently about President Joe Biden
Yeah,
signing a bill. And in that, where it lists all the things it's going to cover, talks about UFOs.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
a big deal. So, I mean, what are your thoughts on something like this where the United States government is making the funding public?
Yeah, well, that's interesting, but I'm not holding my breath. U.S. President Joe Biden orders probe into UFO piloted by aliens in 1945. Says the U.S. Parliament has passed its annual Defense Policy Act this week, signed by President Joe Biden, and part of the budget has been allocated to search for extraterrestrial life. It has also been said all the incidents of UFO sightings since 1945 will be looked into. But the problem with all of this is that we keep getting these government promises. We keep getting these promises of investigations and disclosure. And we keep getting these promises of committees being formed and things being done. And as I've always said, when our government says it's going to form a committee to do something, what our government means is it's going to form a committee to study forming a committee, to think about forming a committee, to maybe actually do something down the road. So this is where we're at with this. And we've seen the big backpedal since the first official UFO was released. When was it? That was like a couple of years ago now, right? That the little
2021. Yeah.
nine-page report came out. And we've seen a ton of backpedaling since then, most recently, as we've talked about on a previous show, where the government has resorted to saying that a lot of the things that people are seeing are weather balloons, oh my God, or some kind of debris flying through the air. So they've already done a huge backpedal. And it's like they just waffle back and forth on this stuff. And I'm not hopeful, to tell you the truth, reading the story and reading everything that's going on. I'm just not hopeful. Um, Jacques Vallée, the astronomer Jacques Vallée, who's also a UFO researcher, he said this decision will help in the investigation of the crashed UFO in San Antonio, Texas, which made headlines back in 1945, but is believed to have been swept under the table by the U.S. government. And Jacques has also written a book on this based on the statements of three key witnesses of the incident: a B 52 bomber pilot, the son of a rancher on whose land the landing took place, and his friend. But, we keep seeing this. We keep saying that it's going to happen, that it's going to come about, that things are going to be revealed, and they're just not. And I think it's just, Yeah, if we were to be bombarded by forthcoming attractions in the movie industry as we have in the UFO industry, we'd all be burning the theaters down and rioting and protesting. You know, it's like coming in 6 months, the latest Tom Cruise movie. 6 months passes, another 3 months, the Tom Cruise movie is coming, and then another 4 months, and Tom Cruise is on the way. And it's like, you know, so I just, it's just so frustrating. We keep reading and we keep seeing these announcements, but we never get anything. We don't have anything concrete. We still don't have anything to hang our hats on. And it's still so very, very frustrating.
And with that, with these instances, the government is consistently losing credibility because, like you mentioned, they're
Absolutely.
promising something and then they're not fulfilling that promise. And it makes the
Absolutely.
rest of the all of the citizens question, should we even believe at all what they're telling us? Are we ever going to receive another report like we were supposed to get every 6 months?
Right.
And then meant to get it in October, never got it, meant to get UFO witness hearings in
Mhm.
Congress, never got that. And I'm like, okay, you know, over the summer of 2021 into 2022, it was a kind of like hot time period.
Yeah.
UFOs was really hot in the mainstream media. The
Mhm.
government was getting involved. They're like, "Yeah, we're going to talk about this." There was a lot of hope. But just now walking into 2023, here we are and we still haven't received the things that we were promised. James,
Exactly.
thank you so much. It says, "Let's start the new year off right." Ramen Fund. Thank you so
Oh,
much,
heck
James.
yeah.
Heck yeah.
Heck yeah. Yeah, that's so true, Christina. That's such a great point because the more they tell us, the less they give us, and they continue to lose credibility. And going back to the congressman who said we have to kick butts and take names, or this thing is just going to go away. It's just going to vanish, and apparently that's what it's doing. And we, the people, are not keeping enough pressure on our government officials, on the military, on science to make something happen. And it's like, you know, I don't understand if you went to a car mechanic and you said, you know, my car is sputtering and missing and occasionally dying, and it'll sit there a little bit and then it'll finally restart, and then I can go a mile or two and it dies again. Fix my car. And if the mechanic came to you with the same things that we get from our government, from the military, and from science, the mechanic would be going, well, we have to investigate this and see what's causing it. Well, okay, fine. Have you investigated it? Well, we're still investigating. Well, why won't the car run? Well, we're looking at alternatives. We're looking at possibilities. One of those possibilities is that you just don't realize that the car is running fine and saying that it's not. And I mean, that's the kind of nonsense that we have coming from our government. And if we put up with that in any other industry, no, we wouldn't. We wouldn't put up with that in any other industry. And so you know, this could be potentially the most important thing that we ever deal with is the realization. Yeah, why'd you buy a Ford? There you go. The realization that extraterrestrial life exists, has been on this planet for a number of years, is visiting the planet, may have bases on this planet, may have bases on the moon, on and on and on and on. This is not a new phenomenon. If you go back in history, people have been sighting UFOs and interacting with aliens for hundreds of years. So, you know, it's like, and another thing that frustrates me, besides the government saying all these things and then never following up, never giving us anything, is there are quote unquote well known people, famous people, ufologists in the UFO industry, the cottage industry it's become, that they're always saying, I have this great thing coming out in 2 weeks' time, and nothing ever happens. I have this great exposure that's coming up, nothing ever happens. I have this great knowledge. I have this secret knowledge, but I can't reveal it to you right now. You know, shut up. Just go away. If
That's what
you
I find the most frustrating with,
it is,
where people are like, "I have this great information, but I can't tell you about
but I
it." And then
can't
there's
tell
like,
you.
"Then don't
Yeah.
even bring it up. They're just
Don't even
blowing
bring
hot
it up.
air."
And do you even have it? You know, so many people claim to have these knowledges, these experiences, this, that, the other, and so on and so forth. And when pressed, they don't. It's not there. And so it's like, I'm just right now. It's like put up or shut up. If you can say it and prove it, if you've really got the real deal, bring it to us. Bring it out in
Yeah.
the open. Talk to us about it.
Go
And
and sing it. Bring
yeah,
it.
yeah, that's it. Exactly right. Exactly right. So once again, our government promises us something that I'm pretty sure we're going to be very disappointed with.
I hope not, though. XR, thank you so much for the super sticker. And Jessica as well, thank you. It says, hopefully the new year brings us a new UAP UFO report that has some meat in it and some truths that would be great, but won't hold my breath.
Yep. Yep.
At this point, we just really can't have expectations, and that goes in any
Yeah.
situation, not just in the field, but even in your day to day life. You simply cannot have expectations unless you're getting like a McDonald's burger. You know how it's going to taste every single time because
There
those
you
things do
go.
not mold. Okay.
Reliability. I like that reliability.
Aside from that, we shouldn't have expectations. So while I am looking forward to this report, and I want to see at least something like they had promised us.
Mhm.
I don't have high standards that it's going to
Yeah.
be compelling
No high
information,
expectations.
but we
Yeah.
could be
Yeah. I'm
wrong.
with
We
you.
we won't know until it happens.
Yeah. And the other frustrating thing on the side of the coin is, as we've discussed in the past, I have communicated with a UFO and seen it respond to my request. And then it flew off into the stars, flew off into the universe. And in spite of my continued efforts to learn something that we can hang our hats on, I have no more knowledge, no more information. And so it seems very frustrating to me that this, whatever it is, this intelligence, these beings, whatever they are, seem to be so absolutely reticent to communicate anything constructive to us. And it's just, it just gets more and more and more frustrating.
It does, but well, let's kind of shift gears a little bit
Let's segue.
to a more comical story, and that is the Colombian police
Oh my
releases
God.
wanted criminal posters with no photos, no names. Let me share the actual image that the Colombian police posted on social media and stating, if you have any information on these people, we will give you a hefty reward. But when you look at this, you're like,
Oh, I know
how
this one. I know this one.
exactly? And let's
Can
just
you believe
say
this?
they got pretty ridiculed as soon as they
Yeah.
posted it on social media.
And deservedly so. I mean, it's just crazy. People were saying first lead, they all look identical. One person mocked the poster on Twitter. This is the Colombian police investigation body, an outstanding job. They don't post the photos because then they lose their salary. And it's you have to wonder how much of that is true, how many people are bought off, and you have to wonder about the fear, because in dealing with the cartels, the widely known fact about dealing with the cartels, when the cartels come in to take over anything, whether it's politics, the police department, the military, businesses, whatever, the widely known thing is, do you want the bullet or the money? Do you want the bullet or the gold? And so, here's your choice. We want you to do this. Here's a big stack of money. And do you want that or do you want the bullet? Those are your choices. And so it's a difficult thing for people to deal with. So maybe there's fear involved there, maybe there's a payoff involved there, but you got to admit, it is comical. It is crazy to put up these identical silhouettes with these aliases. And I'm sure most of the people that are there, that are in the know, most people know street criminals, street gangs, that type of thing. You may not be involved in it, but I have people that have been involved with mob figures, with mafia figures, that have known them, and that knowledge trickles down. So there are people that probably know who these people are, but do you think they're going to turn them in? Good God, no. You know, it's like they don't want to be found hanging from a freeway overpass. It's like,
Exactly, and when you're dealing with the cartel, it's a pretty scary thing, and as you had kind of touched on, was when you're dealing with these types of groups, they do, from the stories that we've been told, at least publicly, they do buy out sections of the police department to say, "Hey, we're
oh,
gonna commit
absolutely.
crime, but you're gonna look the other way. Here's a ton of money, and
Exactly.
go catch someone for a speeding ticket instead
Yeah,
of us doing what
exactly.
we're doing over
Exactly
here."
right. Yeah, exactly right.
Yeah.
And interestingly enough, talking about the mafia, which is kind of our version of the cartel, I guess, at times in history past, and you can look this up, you can research this, our government has utilized the mafia for certain operations. So it's kind of like, yeah, y'all are bad guys and we're out to bust you. And we're out, oh, but in this case, we need you to do this for us and we'll look the other way.
But
So,
what's really interesting that we can definitely bring in something else is a new AI robot that's
oh my
going to
God.
be your lawyer.
Oh my God.
And
Oh my
so in
God.
any kind of criminal situation, instead of having a human lawyer, you're gonna get an AI one.
Yeah.
And this is incredibly interesting because a court hearing in February is set to make history when the defendant is advised by artificial intelligence. The technology stems from the company Do Not Pay. Great company name.
Yeah.
Founded in 2015 by a then Stanford University freshman that initially developed this Do Not Pay company to appeal a parking ticket.
Right.
So the world's first robot lawyer will run on the defendant's smartphone and listen to commentary to provide its client with instructions on what to say in arguments. And the as for like the courthouse location, the names that are going to be in court during this time have not been revealed just yet, but this situation, this circumstance is going to make history, and it scares some people, right? Especially the lawyers think that they're going to lose their jobs. But the reason to why this was created was it was not only to appeal a parking ticket, but in order to do that, it costs a lot of money to hire a lawyer. And
Right. Right.
in this instance, with a then Stanford University freshman, they don't have a lot of money. They don't have a lot of experience either on where to look for a lawyer. And from his understanding was that these people, when it comes to like at least parking ticket issues, they just copy and paste and then charge you $1,000 or so. I
Right.
haven't had that personally, so I'm not familiar with that. But when you're dealing with a robot, it's a totally different a whole different ball game altogether. But what's even weirder about this, John, is that this has been going on in China for quite
Yeah.
some time. Since last July, it was revealed that the Chinese nation is using the technology to improve its court system by recommending laws, drafting documents, and alerting perceived human errors in ruling. Judges must now consult the AI on every case by law. Beijing Supreme Court said in an update on the system published earlier this week that if they go against its recommendations, they must submit a written explanation for why.
Yeah. You know what terrifies me about this, Christina?
Hmm.
Look how many times that Alexa goes offline, screws up. You ask her a reasonable question. I don't know that. Oh, I just said Alexa. Now she's going off in the living room. And look at the self driving cars. There was a person killed in a self driving car because the cameras on the car and the AI and the computer in the car read the truck next to it, which reflected the blue sky apparently. And so the camera decided that there was nothing in that lane, that it was just seeing clear blue sky and went into that lane and it killed the driver. So we have all of these problems with AI. Look how many times your computer crashes and has to be rebooted. When I'm getting ready to get on with you, Google has decided that it doesn't want to work anymore for my camera and for our connection. So I have to open up Firefox and then it updates. And then I have to open up my camera and then it updates. And sometimes it crashes and I have to redo everything. So to get on with you at 6 o'clock Eastern, I'm on here about 25 minutes till or 20 minutes till, turning all this stuff on, getting it ready to go, getting it trying to ready to work. So as unreliable as all of our AI technology is, all of our computers, all of our smartphones, as unreliable as everything is, it scares me to death to think that people are going to rely on AI lawyers. And it's like, this is a nightmare. It's got to go off in a wrong direction really quickly. It's going to be where something malfunctions and the AI lawyer is going, plead guilty, plead guilty. It's like some crazy thing has got to happen, because we see crazy things happening with all the other AI that we're involved in. And at the same time, remember, I won't say her name again because she'll start up again, but remember when the chatbots that were developed through there started developing their own language and talking to each other, and they had to shut it down because the engineers were like, we don't know what they're saying, what they're doing, what's going on. And then there was one of the chatbots that was in a chat with somebody that told them to either, I can't remember what it was, you can look it up online, either commit suicide or kill their parents or do something. So yeah, AI is a very dangerous thing at this point, and to think that it can be involved in the legal system, and that people in China, which is already totalitarian, are going to be depending upon these AI lawyers basically to say what's going on. And then if you disagree with that, you have to write some kind of appeal or go through this and ferret it out. That's pretty scary. You're already in a totalitarian state, and now the AI lawyer is going to make pass judgment on you, and you may have no recourse. So it's pretty scary.
It is, but it seems like we're just going that route. We're going to be seeing a lot more of that in the
Yeah,
future with everything that is happening
I think
currently
you're
with
right.
our technology advancements, also with robots attempting to be created with skin that can regenerate itself, which
Yeah,
is
yeah,
wild.
yeah, extremely wild. And the
And
problem with AI that we don't think about, number one, we should call it not artificial intelligence, but machine intelligence. And when machine intelligence becomes self aware or more self aware, there's a Google engineer that states that their Google AI is already sentient. That's been in the news for a long time. But when machine intelligence does become aware, we don't know what its goals and its aims and its purposes are going to be in relation to us and our well being, number one. Number two, look at the fact that ghostly presences, entities, these invisible presences can interact with telephones. There's been phone calls from the dead. We have EVP, electronic voice recordings on digital recorders, on tape recorders. We get ghost photographs. We have this obvious interact. I mean, ghosts can slam doors. They can, they can interact with the physical dimension, do all these things. So what's going to happen when entities on the other side start messing with artificial intelligence? The ghost in the machine is going to take on a whole new meaning when that happens. So I think we're opening up a real Pandora's box here with AI, and we're not progressing as carefully as we should.
And it seems that at this point, we're only going to figure it out the hard way. After
Yeah,
everything's already put in place, is when we'll
yeah.
begin to see the consequences or potentially the benefits from being surrounded by AI. But, John, talk to us about the Gator Crosswalk story.
This was in the city where I lived. If you can bring that picture up, this is in the city where I lived here in Florida. Florida is still a big swamp, folks. And this is as you can see, this is a populated section of downtown. There are businesses and apartment buildings in the back. There are big box stores, like this is close to the Home Depot. There are tons of restaurants around. There are a ton of apartment buildings around. There are tons of businesses around. And here's this gator ambling across the crosswalk in the midst of all this. And the sheriff's deputies are blocking traffic, waiting for the thing to get across and for presumably the wildlife department to come in. So this is in an area that I know very well. I knew the whole town very well. And in this area where all these businesses and everything are, all over this town, there were retention ponds where when it rained, it would gather the water, and they were always full of water. And they installed fountains in the retention ponds. So there were fountains. And on the concrete pad where the nozzle was for the fountains, gators of this size would get up there and lay out there to sun and to bask underneath the water fountain. And this is in the middle of downtown. Like I say, I mean, there's restaurants all around, there's businesses all around, big box stores, everything else. And so Florida is this one big swamp where we have, in towns like this, we had a panther in town one time, a large panther roaming around. We had alligators all over our neighborhood and the canals and everything. And we would hear one when we first moved here, first moved to Florida. They were telling us about it. We rented a house before we built our house, and they were telling us in the canal behind our house, they said, listen for the gator at night because he gets out there and rumbles and roars. The gators vibrate, and they make the water vibrate, and it makes this huge noise. And we could hear him out there in the canal at night. And they're all over town. And they would, was the walk signal on? Probably not. When you're a gator, you don't care about the walk signal. The gators would be in the canals all in our neighborhood where we live. And this is not a rural neighborhood. It's a built up neighborhood. And we'd be out like walking the dog, and there would be gators, and they would be watching you. And when they start paying attention to you, that's when you know you need to quit going that way, because when you've got a gator's attention, you know at some point he's going to come after you. So we have all these gators all over Florida. And we had a friend of ours come in to stay. And I said, now listen to me. I said, if there's a puddle of water here, there's a gator in it. And she was like, yeah, whatever. And I was like, you need to pay attention to me. If there's a puddle of water here, there's a gator in it. She's like, yeah, right, whatever. So we took her to the Holiday Inn, which is actually not far from this section of town. And in the retention pond there with the big fountain going, there was like a 4-footer and a 6-footer swimming around in the circle in the fountain when we pulled up. And I said, look, see, don't go in the water in Florida. So yeah, gators are ubiquitous here. And it was just hilarious that one happened to use the crosswalk to go across, and that the sheriff's deputies came out and stopped traffic for it and everything. But yeah, they're everywhere here. But it made a hilarious story. It makes a hilarious picture.
It sounds like Florida is the Australia of the United States.
It is. We have 6 venomous snakes. We have gators everywhere. We have panthers everywhere. Bears everywhere. Bears came into town. Bears were. There was one picture of a bear running down the sidewalk in Daytona Beach one time. So yeah, there's a lot of wildlife here, and there's a lot of things that will kill you and eat you, and there's a lot of things that will bite you and sting you and hurt you, and it's a crazy thing. Yeah, alligators can outrun humans. People don't realize this, but alligators are super fast. Like this guy, he's ambling across the crosswalk and da 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 da. But like this guy points out, those guys right there are in the danger zone. If he turned around and ran at one of those guys, there's no way they would escape him. Alligators are like super fast over a short distance. And if you're that close to one, you're not going to outrun it if it's coming to get you. So people see the alligators plodding around and they think, oh, these guys, I could outrun them easy. No, when they are going after you, you're not going to get away if you're close. They can be extremely fast.
Alligators, they're okay from afar. I've seen videos of alligators being pets, and I'm thinking, I
crazy.
don't know how that's possible. I've seen a peacock being a pet as well, and I'm like, what is going on here?
This one says, John, can he do damage to you? He looks small. He's actually about a 5 or 6 footer. And when we moved here, I studied everything I could on gators, and they say if a 4-footer gets you in the water, it'll kill you. And this one, 5 or 6 foot here, yeah, if he latches onto you, you're going to be missing skin, have broken bones, everything else. And if he gets in the right spot, you're dead. Yeah, so yeah, don't mess with the gators.
No, and that's why, at least for people in Florida, it's on the menu as well. If you can't beat them, eat them, right?
Yeah, gator
But
tail is good. I've had gator tail and it's really good. If it's prepared properly, it's really tasty. It's really good. And oddly enough, before we moved to Florida, the best gator tail I've ever had was in upstate New York.
oh my gosh.
Go
Well,
figure.
Laura says last October, my best friend's mother in law was attacked by a gator and she had her
Yeah,
left hand bitten off. Massive trauma to her left leg and both feet. And she is still in rehab. This
yeah,
is not funny. No, that is absolutely
yeah,
terrible. And when we're dealing with any type of wild animal, we don't know what they're going to do. They might look
yeah.
cute and cuddly one moment, but we don't know
We're food.
exactly for the most
Uh,
part. And then the way that we look at them as well, we classify them as food also.
right,
But
right,
looking into the new year, a lot of people's resolutions every single year is to lose weight, save money, and eat healthier.
all right,
Well,
right,
there has been this recent study, which is really incredible. And that is depending on the music that you listen to throughout purchasing food when you're going to the grocery store
right.
will correspond to what foods you'll pick up in the aisles, have it be healthy food or junk food. So if you are thinking about changing your diet this year in 2023, take a listen to this article. It's really interesting. I'm going to share an image here just as a visual aid while we go ahead and read this article. But John, while I do that, give us the rundown.
Yeah, they said that the researchers from the University of South Florida, oddly enough, found that having low or no music playing in a supermarket or restaurant increases the sales of, and I'm going to say quote unquote healthy food, as it induces a state of relaxation. When louder music is played, however, the purchase of greasy, unhealthy foods increases by 20%. This is because when music is played at a higher volume, it increases our excitement, stress, and arousal levels, according to the study published in the Journal of the Academy of Marketing Sciences. The study carried out research in a cafe in Stockholm, dividing snacks into healthy, neutral, and unhealthy categories. Researchers then played music at a higher or lower volume, and Oxford professor of experimental psychology, Charles Spence, advised people to turn down the volume on their speakers or headphones if they want to fulfill their healthy eating aim. He explained, we often blame our own willpower when it comes to ditching New Year's resolutions sooner than we hoped, but the science shows there is much more at play. The findings show that music can be the reason you're finding it hard to make healthy snacking choices. Now, with me, you could play a funeral dirge, you could play Metallica, you could play Vivaldi's Four Seasons, there could be crickets chirping, there could be total quiet. It doesn't matter. I'm eating like a ravenous, starved wild boar. That's just my personal experience. So for me, the music has nothing to do with it. If there is a plate of food before me, don't get near me. Don't put your hands near me. You're going to get stabbed by a fork or bitten. That's that's just me. So I don't know. This might work for some people, but for me, it's a no-show. It's like it doesn't matter if there's food, get out of my way. It doesn't matter if there's silence or if there's a jet engine roaring beside me or Metallica playing beside me. Get out of my way. So I don't know. It may work for some people. I think for some people it might be worth looking into, but who knows? Who
Yeah,
knows, right?
well, this is something that I've personally experienced where I've been in locations or like those kind of like restaurants that have that ambiance of like loud music and it's just like really hustle and bustle. And
Right.
I realize in those situations that I eat really fast. Now I'm already a fast eater, which is like really terrible. It's awful. But when you're in another environment where they're playing like nice classical music, you
Yeah,
have like,
really soft. Yeah,
you know, those
yeah,
like really fancy environments, that is when you begin to realize that you're eating slower. Could it be because of the ambiance? Could it be because of the music? Could it be everything in between? Could it be the company that you're with? These are
yeah.
also factors when dealing with at least eating and consuming food at the
Right.
rate and even at the what type of food catches your interest in those moments. But
Yeah,
when going to the grocery store, I see time and time again a lot of people that actually have headphones in, listening to music, just doing their errands because for
right,
many,
right.
grocery shopping is just a chore. That's all
Yeah.
it is. And depending on the music that they're listening to, it seems like, at least from this study, they have a higher chance, if they listen to like some really hardcore jams, to be in the chip aisle versus the vegetable aisle, for instance.
I think they've got to do more studies on this because it just that may be true for some people, but I know for me and a lot of the people that I know, if I'm in some place, I'm going to eat what I'm going to eat, and if there's Metallica playing, that just enhances my enjoyment of it. If there's Vivaldi playing very softly in the background, I will probably eat a little slower, but I'll be so relaxed. It's like, oh, this is nice. Bring me another plate, you know? So it's like,
But
I,
in that situation, depending on what artist you're listening to, do you think that would change the options that you would pick from?
not for me. It might for some people, but if I have my mind set on something, if I want Mexican food, or if I want Indian food, or if I want a hamburger or whatever, it doesn't matter what's playing. I'm going to get the food that I want, then I'm going to enjoy that food by the music that's playing. And I enjoy a wide variety of music. I enjoy everything from country to rock to metal to, the whole nine yards with bluegrass, everything. So it's going to be. I love to eat. I love food. I have ever since I was a kid. Ever since I was a kid, I have loved food, and I still do. And so for me, loving food and loving music, whatever you play, it's just going to add to the enjoyment of me eating food. And I'm going in with my mind made up. So I don't know. I think there's more research there that needs to be done. I think that it's they may have gotten some preliminary results that are kind of like, maybe so, but I think there's more connections to be made. Yeah, dinner bell does it for me. There you go.
Well, for those that want to try this out for your New Year resolution, give it a try
Yeah,
and
give it a
play with
whirl.
different genres of music and see how you react when you leave the grocery store and you begin to like do the tally. All right, how many good snacks did I get? How many delicious snacks did I get, but like not very nutritious? And
Yeah,
then go
yeah.
from there. It'll be a fun experiment to
It'd be
do
a
for
good
yourself
experiment for
if you
people
have,
to do.
yeah,
Absolutely, it
if you
will.
want to
I
do
agree.
it.
And then there's people like me that it's just like, if there's a half-eaten candy bar in the garbage, that's fair game. It's like, let's go. So,
Well, what's interesting about that before we move on was I had Emily Fleur on. She is a Gen Z Bigfoot researcher, and we
oh yeah,
actually
yeah.
talked about dumpster diving and
Mhm.
Bigfoot's dumpster diving. And from my understanding, it seems like now that we're in this winter season,
Yeah.
and if you're in Bigfoot country, for instance, and in your case, the skunk ape, there's going to be a higher chance that you potentially might see a Bigfoot dumpster diving. So make sure to put in a half eaten candy bar in the
There you
trash,
go. There you
use it
go.
as a bait, and then take a good picture.
Now that's interesting. That is really interesting. And take a good picture. We go back to this again, Christina. You and I have talked about this before. Learn to use your friggin' camera. And don't use a camera phone. Camera phones are useless. Get a good camera, learn how to use it, learn how to focus. I've seen like 9G in photos of here's a UFO, here's a Bigfoot, here's a dog man, and you're looking at this blurry, out of focus montage of something in the woods and you can't even tell what the trees are or anything else. They're like, look, right there, right there. And it's like, no, learn to use your camera. But do leave some things out for the Bigfoot in the dumpster during winter, yes.
And now's the best time. We're in the middle of
And
winter.
maybe they would like a jar of pickle juice and a container of ketchup.
I'm
You
gonna
knew I had to go
assume
there. You knew I had to go.
I'm gonna assume that they're not totally for that. But I went to the store today and I told you this backstage, John, but I just got frosted flakes, but these ones are
Oh
strawberry
yeah.
milkshake flavored. Not
Yes.
strawberry flavored, strawberry
Yes.
milkshake flavored.
Yes.
And I'm like, I'm buying it.
I
And
have eaten several boxes of them, and I highly recommend them. I highly recommend them.
and it just came on the market. Like this is a
Yes.
brand new product, at
Yeah.
least here in the States. And they only had the family size one. And I'm like, well,
Oh
there it
yeah.
goes for
Oh
me.
yeah.
Just gonna buy
Yeah.
this ginormous box.
I've gone through several of the family size boxes. They are delicious. I highly recommend them. Eat them with Vivaldi. Eat them with Metallica. Yeah, just
I was definitely listening to some hardcore jams when I was at the grocery store because
yeah. There
that I
you
mean,
go.
those frosted flakes are so bad for you. It's literally pure sugar. Like
You
there is
know,
no nutrition
my
whatsoever.
diet. Let me tell you. My diet consists of fat, sugar, grease, meat, and alcohol, and lots of butter. And if I don't eat that way, I get sick and I feel bad. If I eat quote
What?
unquote healthy, if I eat like, lots of fiber, and if I eat lots of the salads and lots of all this stuff, I will get sicker than a dog. I will have more gastrointestinal problems than you can even imagine. But if I eat, for me, what is right, which is fat, sugars, alcohol, beef, and lots of butter, all those types of things. I am a Captain Crunch type of guy. That's my favorite cereal is Captain Crunch, absolutely. And anything that's supposed to be quote unquote healthy makes me sicker than a dog. And if I eat the way I know I should eat, then I'm okay. And I've done all the healthy things. I've done all the healthy diets. I've taken the protein tablets. I used to be a distance runner, weightlifter, distance swimmer, distance bicycle, all this stuff. And I know all the stuff to do, and I know all the diets, and I tried them all, and they all made me sicker than a dog. And if I just eat what I'm supposed to, which is enchiladas and a beer, and then go eat some candy and drink, I'm fine. So I think it all comes down to we have to know our individual metabolism and, work from there.
Which enchiladas are
Oh, yeah.
delicious.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
But
yeah.
and I've seen the pictures that you posted online of your enchiladas. But John, what article would you like to cover next today?
Let's see. Let's go to.
And then we
Oh,
also have the Roswell Rock story as well.
yes, we'll get to the Roswell Rock story. First, let's go to this. Florida Sheriff's Department burglars call 911 to get help moving stuff.
Stuff that they stole.
Yes, two people in Florida were arrested. Now, wait for it. After one of them made a 911 call to get help with moving their belongings from a home they were burglarizing, authorities said. Deputies responded to a home Saturday after 911 call was made, but nobody spoke, the Polk County Sheriff's Office said. At the home, the deputies concluded that nobody lived there, but they found a male suspect and his girlfriend inside the home after entering it through an unlocked door while talking to deputies. The female suspect told them that she had called 911, wait for it, for the purpose of having law enforcement help them move their belongings from the house they were burglarizing. They also wanted to get a ride to the airport so they could spend the weekend in New York, the sheriff's office said. This is
That story cannot be more insane. Not only are they asking for assistance to help move stuff that they're stealing, but they're like, you know what? While you're here, drop it off at the
like,
airport because
take us
we feel
off
like
to the
having a
yeah, take us to
vacation.
the airport. Yeah, it's like,
Yeah.
and you read these things like, people have called 911 to report somebody stole their drugs or that a drug deal went bad and they want the cops to come arrest the dealer or whatever. It's like, what goes through these people's minds? It just shows you that there are levels of the human race that we need to be very concerned about. These people are not joining Mensa anytime soon.
No. So these deputies, they did help these two
Yeah,
criminals move their belongings and they did give them a ride, but it wasn't to the airport,
went to the
but
airport.
it was to prison. That's where they went. No fun weekend in New York for them. No,
No.
sir.
Oh my. You gotta love this. You gotta love this. And it's like you see this stuff all the time, and it's like, you're not cut out to be a career criminal if this is your go-to maneuver. It's like, if this is the best you've got, hey man, I'm burglarizing this house. There's a lot of heavy furniture here. Call 911. Get the cops to come help us move this stuff.
Yeah, the first thing that you would think about would be to call your friends, call
Yeah,
someone that you would at least pay to do the moving, because then that won't
exactly.
be suspicious at all. Call a
Hey man,
family
I'm
member.
over here robbing this house, dude. Come help me out. But to call 911 and ask the cops the same thing, it's like, wow. So yeah,
Well, their names have not been disclosed, but the male suspect was charged with burglary and theft related to the store and a residence as well. And then
whoa,
the female suspect was charged with burglary of a residence according to the sheriff's office. So both of them have been charged, but it's just one of those strange stories that we have to cover on Strange Weekly News.
we must. That you can't make up. I just, yeah, and you got to cover it. You got to cover it. That's right. It's so true. So true.
Hyde says, better yet, call the homeowner. It's a
Yeah.
genius
Hey,
idea,
I'm
Hyde.
robbing your house, man. I need some help here. Okay, now we can segue to the Roswell Rock, the infamous Roswell Rock.
Ooh, I'm excited for this story.
Oh my, this was I've always told people I'm one of the most skeptical psychics that there is, and one of the most skeptical paranormal researchers there is. And I saw this story on the Roswell Rock, and this actually was on an episode, I believe, of Ancient Aliens. And oh God, refresh my mind real quick. The guy with the hair, uh, Giorgio Tsoukalos. Yeah, he was talking with this guy that had the Roswell Rock, and they were going through all this machination of having the rock examined, this, that, and the other, and so on and so forth. Well, when I saw the rock, I was like, nah, that's not extraterrestrial. That was not left there by aliens. It doesn't have any special properties. And during the program where they were presenting this, they took it to some guys that did, lapidary or jewelry making or whatever. And they said, could this be duplicated? And the guy made a quick duplicate of it that looked very, very much like it. And he said on camera, he said, they didn't give me a lot of time. I did this real quickly and it still looks just like it. He said, if they would give me a little more time, I could have made an exact duplicate of it. There's nothing, amazing about this. So they tried to give all these properties to it. And when I saw this, I was like, oh man, I know what this is. I had been to, um, in Roswell back in oh God, I'll have to think of the date here, but it's been a long time ago. There was an alien encounter, 98, I believe it was, in Roswell, New Mexico. Stanton Friedman was there lecturing. I got to see him in person. I went there, gave readings in person, so on and so forth. And there was this company that were selling these crop circle rocks, and they had engraved them, and I bought one, and they had all these different designs that they had engraved in the rocks. And as soon as I saw it, I said, "Oh, I know what that is. This company at Alien Encounter 98 was selling these damn things. They were engraving, making these things, and selling them." And so I wrote into the page where the guy was had this listed, and I told him, I said, "I know what this is. I know the company that made it." And then I sent him another photo, and I said, "Here's one that's almost virtually identical to the one that was featured in the TV show that we bought for a friend of ours who's blind. And it's very highly textured. And we bought it for him so he could feel it and see what the pattern looked like." And so I included that in there. So I said, there's nothing supernatural or extraterrestrial or alien involved about this. I said, these are made, you can get them all over the place. You can still get them today. The rocks that are engraved in crop circle patterns. So I debunked that. There's a link that I sent you to where all the information is that I debunked that and what went on and everything else. So the purpose of that is that just because somebody well known is on a TV program that's well known and says something is something or this or the other doesn't make it so. You've got to go into some real heavy research. And I mean, it was just it was fortuitous that I saw this, and I was like, I know what that is. And then I found online this guy that had this crop circled site and all these things on there. And I wrote to him. I said, look, I said, here's a picture of the one I bought at Alien Encounter 98. They had a bunch of other ones that look like this. And as far as it being found out in the desert, somebody's out there goofing around, probably lost the darn thing. Or somebody said, watch, I'm going to put this out here. Somebody's going to find it and think an alien left it here. And that's all there was to it. So there's so many things that we go to the knee-jerk reaction of, oh, it's got to be real, it's got to be authentic, da 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 da. And you got to put in your research. You got to put in your, put in your, not a
The elbow
hostile either,
grease.
but you got to be skeptical. You got to say, okay, let's examine it, let's prove it out, and if it is, great, and if it's not, then it's not. So, but that's the Roswell Rock story.
So then in that instance on that episode, how did it turn out? Did they stated that it was real and it wasn't, or did they
They
at the
were
end of the
they were
show be
still
like,
trying to, yeah, they were still trying to promote the idea that it was genuine, that it was really an alien artifact. And it's just, kind of like finding a stick out in your yard and going, oh, this came from Mars. This, it's just like, come on, people, you can't go in, as bad as it is when so-called skeptics, debunkers go in and their minds made up. There's no psychics, there's no paranormal, there's no UFO, there's no ghosts, there's no healing. As bad as that is, it's equally as bad when people go in with their mind made up that anything that happens is supernatural or, alien inspired or this, that, and the other, or whatever. So you can't go in with a bias either way if you're going to do it honestly. You have to go in with, okay, show me. It's like I was at a party one time. We lived in upstate New York, and my wife was having a party with a lot of people there. And one of the guys there said he knew somebody that could set ice cream on fire with the power of his mind. And I was like, number one, how the hell would you ever discover that? You're sitting there eating a pint of ice cream. You go, bitch, die, and set it on. It's like, what? Where would that even come from to begin with? And then number two, show me. And so we were like, okay, fine. I'll buy the pint of ice cream. I'll bring it, so I know it's not tampered with, doesn't have some time release chemical on there that bursts in flame or whatever. I'll buy the ice cream. I'll bring it to the guy, show us. And of course, can't. Nobody ever does. Well, they're busy or they don't do that, or it's against their belief system, or, they've used up all their power, or, the aliens will punish them if they do, or what, all these excuses. So, you have to be, don't be gullible. Don't be a debunker, but don't be gullible either.
but also put them in their place. They're gonna be like, no, I can't do it. You bring all the supplies. See, that is so smart, John. Being like, look, if you're gonna say that you can do it,
Yeah.
I will supply
I'll
you with the
supply
items that
everything.
you
Yeah.
need. Now,
Yeah.
you do not have a single excuse to tell me otherwise.
That's
And then when they
exactly
say,
right.
no, no, I can't. Oh, not now. Maybe just
Yeah.
the stars aren't aligned.
The
You're like,
conditions aren't right. Yeah.
yeah, all right, all right. But I do have a quick story regarding ice cream.
Oh, wonderful.
My my
I love
it's
ice
nothing
cream.
supernatural, literally at all,
Ice
but
cream.
for I love ice cream. I have
Me
loved
too.
ice cream since I came out, like, and became a baby. I love ice cream with all of my
Yes.
heart.
Yes.
Very
Yeah.
specifically, my favorite brand is Bluebell ice cream. Their homemade vanilla, no one can compare. It's so
Yeah.
good. Well, in I think it was like my sophomore year in high school. I was just kind of starting doing all like video editing and that kind of stuff. And I
Right.
originally used iMovie, like absolutely horrible. But because of that time period, I'm able to create the video graphics that I do today. But we had to do this one video for class, and I had already finished mine in like 2 days. It was so easy for me. But I had this group of friends that were like, Chris, can you do it for us? And I was like, under one condition, guys. One condition. They're like, okay, what is it? What is it? We'll give you anything you want. We just don't know how to use a computer. And I said, you're gonna have to pay me an ice cream. They're like,
There
done.
you
That whatever you want. And we had a grocery store right across the street. So it was so easy for them. And at this time, I was really good friends with the librarians at my school. I helped out in the library. I would literally ditch class to
Mhm.
hang out with the librarians. They're like my best friends ever. And so I put the ice cream in the only freezer in the school, which is in the library. Like that's like accessible to me, right? And I put a Post-it note and I'm like, "Do not eat my ice
This
cream."
is my ice cream.
And I put like lines under it and I put
Right, right.
exclamation parts and I'm like, "Do not eat it," right? You know the person that ate my ice cream, John?
The librarian.
The person who owed me that ice cream. I almost went around and so hard, but I'm like, "It's fine. You know what?
Oh my
I'm
God.
gonna be the bigger person and I'm gonna say it's okay, but I'm never gonna do your project for you
Yeah, there
again."
you go. There you go. You worked for ice cream. I used to work for beer. Like, oh, you need this room
Oh,
painted?
no.
Buy me a case of beer. We're good.
Ah, Patrice, right on it. I licked this.
Yeah, there
I
you
should
go.
have
There you
done
go.
that on the Post-it note, being like, "I already licked this ice cream. Like, you
Now,
cannot
see,
have it. It's
Patrice,
full of my germs."
for me, that wouldn't make any difference. I'd be all right. Okay.
Jeez, ice cream is so delicious. I love it
Isn't
all,
it?
but
It's
all
just so
kinds of
marvelous.
sweets.
Haagen-Dazs makes this bourbon praline
Haagen-Dazs is good.
pecan. Oh my God. It's like I could eat, like, you can fill a bathtub with it and I can just sit there and just eat it. It's like, oh my God. Yeah, but ice cream is just the most marvelous thing.
Haagen-Dazs is pretty darn good. I like all their flavors, but moving on to
Moving
another article
on.
is one that just recently came out and actually one that, Jimmy and I spoke about on Fade to Black yesterday, and that is the article with the title, "Russia Says It Shot Down a UFO."
Oh yeah,
And this
yeah.
was published by Newsweek. And I shared my thoughts, yesterday on this article, but
Mhm.
John, what do you think about this whole situation? And for those that aren't familiar with this article, if you can give us just like a brief summary on it.
Yeah, it's a mystery object described by one local news outlet as a UFO has been shot down in the southern Russian region of Rostov. Vasily Golubev, the governor of Rostov Oblast, which is like a section or a state of whatever in Russia, wrote on Telegram that a small size object in the shape of a ball had been discovered flying in the wind at an altitude of around 1.5 miles on January 3rd, with the object spotted above the village of Sultan Sala in the region's Myasnikovsky district. Golubev said the decision was taken to liquidate it. I urge everyone to remain calm to ensure security. All forces and means are involved. The sky is covered with anti-aircraft defenses, he said. He added, without specifying what the object was. There have been numerous reports over the years of Russia downing UFOs or being in possession of crashed UFOs. This is not a phenomenon that's unique to the U.S., not a phenomenon that's unique to Russia. There have been other countries that have alleged to have shot down UFOs or are in possession of crashed UFOs and so on and so forth. So reports like these have leaked out of Russia over the years. And I saw something just the other day where there are supposedly credible reports of all these crashes involving UFOs with cars. Cars have run into UFOs, planes have run into UFOs, ships have run into UFOs. So it's not all this uncommon to see these accidents with UFOs or the shooting down of UFOs or UFO crashes. But this has come out of Russia before. This is not anything new. This is something that Russia has claimed before. And again, it's not unique to either the U.S. or Russia. These reports come in from all over the world. And what I don't understand is why the mainstream news media is not all over this 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Because if a plane crashes into a UFO or a UFO crashes into a plane, and particularly if there's verifiable damage or pilot deaths, which are alleged to have occurred, or a UFO collides or a USO collides with a boat um, or a car. There's a lot of people that have alleged UFOs have either crashed into their cars or force them off the road and so on and so forth. A lot of these seem to be very, very credible, and especially news reports coming out of Russia, places like that. I don't understand why the mainstream media doesn't just hang on this 24 hours a day. This has always puzzled me.
See, I was looking at this article with a more skeptical eye. Like, why would this information even be released? And why wasn't it either very quickly redacted or someone debunking it super quickly, stating, no, wasn't a UFO. It was a weather balloon. It was a
Yeah,
drone. But instead, they're sticking really hard with this
yeah,
story. And there
yeah,
have been other news outlets that have copied this same story because I went ahead and I really attempted to look for other articles that potentially gave different information or more details, but
mhm,
all of them are pulling from Newsweek. There isn't anything
yeah,
new out there in the public.
right, right.
And so I was thinking, could it have been a UFO? Because this is a really big statement, but it
Yeah,
doesn't fit this narrative for the last few decades where it's never a UFO. And now we're
right.
getting it is a UFO now.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
so for me, I saw it more of, okay, look over here, but don't look right here.
yeah.
That's how I saw this. And
Well,
because there's so little information in this article of like really going into detail on what they saw, how big it was, witness accounts,
mhm, mhm,
it's a short article. And I'm
yeah,
thinking it's really hard to come up with a conclusion on stating, yes, it definitely is a UFO, or
right.
I don't think so.
The interesting thing that I've observed in researching this a little bit, studying this over the years, and I'm not a UFO expert. I'm an expert in the psychic and paranormal field, but not in the UFO field, although I've had lots of UFO experiences, lots of UFO sightings. But one thing I've observed over the years is that other countries uh, seem to be very willing to release their information, very willing to be very descriptive of things. Like, where was it, Brazil, where the people were attacked by UFOs over the period
Hilarious,
of time?
Brazil.
Yeah, and they appear to be very willing to put that out there in the news, or to tell that, to talk about that, to speak about that. Whereas in the U.S., everything's a weather balloon, everything's denied, everything's redacted, and so on and so forth. But other countries seem to be very willing to speak very openly about that. And that's another thing that always has amazed me, is that why are we not more involved with those countries and their research and their willingness to be open, and to put out there what they have, and to really go into in depth with that. But the U.S. appears to be very reticent to do so. There have been countries that have said, we've opened up our UFO files, everything that we know, everything that was classified, it's all there. Anybody can come from anywhere and research this. And, here we are, the US, we're supposed to be the biggest, the best, have the most processes of, processes of investigation, dissemination, the best technology and everything else. Why are we not climbing all over that? Why are we not doing that? So I don't know, but from what I've seen in the past, it's not unusual for foreign countries to make these statements and to stand by them. And again, the U.S. seems to do nothing with it.
That is a good point to make, and something that also needs to be considered because you're right. I am looking at this with an American perspective.
Yeah,
So you're right, and I would like to look into documents from around the world that state that they provide us information regarding UFOs because it's important because
it is. It is.
it'll be that domino effect. When you
Yeah,
have one
exactly.
country do it,
Exactly right.
the rest will follow. And there's quite a few countries that have publicly announced that they do have UFO offices and they've had them for decades.
Yeah.
Russia, China, parts of the Middle
Japan.
East,
Yeah. Yeah.
Japan as well,
France.
Mexico,
Um, yeah. Lots of places. And,
Peru.
it just amazes me that I don't understand this dichotomy that we have in the US, where we have this knowledge that leaks out, and we have this common knowledge of things that we know our government can do, and yet our government continues to try and snowball us, and apparently successfully, because we're not standing up in mass and saying, hey, enough, get with the program here. It just I just It's one of the strangest things there is. To me, it's more strange than any paranormal thing I've encountered or anything else, is the fact that this is how we live with this phenomenon in this country. And there are other countries that readily accept that, yeah, it's real, it's extraterrestrial, da 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 da, this, and we backpedal and have all these smoke and mirrors involved with it. And I don't get it. I don't understand.
No, but one thing that is pretty straightforward is that there is a place to recycle human hair in Belgium. Now, not only are they recycling human hair, but they're actually using it to help with the environment in
Environment.
Belgium.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna pull up an image. I have a few images here. This is pretty interesting. Hold on,
It's
let me.
bizarre.
It is bizarre. It is bizarre, but I feel like it's also very innovative
It
because
is innovative.
everyone has hair.
Yeah,
Tons of people get haircuts. So much of it is thrown in the trash. But
exactly.
it seems that with the hair recycle project, feeds locks and tresses into a machine that turns them into matted squares that can be used to absorb oil and other hydrocarbons polluting the environment, or made into these bags that decompose as well, kind of like what you use with
Right.
plants. They have like this little kind of like plant bags, right, that decompose
Exactly.
over time.
Exactly. Yeah.
And so this project, run by co-founder Patrick Jansen, explaining that 1 kilogram or about 2 pounds of hair can absorb about 7 to 8 liters, or about 1.8 to about 2 gallons of oil and hydrocarbons, so that the mat can be placed in drains to soak up pollution in water before it reaches a river. He states, our products are all the more ethical as they are manufactured locally. They are
Right.
not imported from the other side of the planet, and they are made here to deal with our local problems. So they have partnered with a few salons in Belgium where they collect this hair that they cut off of their clients, right, to create these squares.
Hair filters.
Right. And see,
Yeah.
we always take out the hair out of our shower, right?
Hmm.
Like the shower
Hmm.
drains. But maybe
Right.
if we leave
Right.
it there, somehow maybe it'll filter
You'll
everything.
filter things out. Yeah. So it's what an amazing concept. What an amazing discovery. And there's so many things out there that if we thought outside the box and if we allowed inventive minds to work on things, who knows what we could come up with? Who knows what we can solve? But the problem in doing innovative things like this is always people's knee-jerk reaction that, oh, that's stupid, that's the craziest idea I've ever heard of, or that won't work, or whatever. So that's one thing that people, the status quo tends to try and shut things down. And the other thing is money. If I have a product that I'm making that filters oil, and you come along and sweep up the hair off the floor in the hair salons and make a product that works as well or better, and it's maybe cheaper, then I'm going to try and discredit what you're doing because you're hurting my pocketbook. So we serve the pocketbook instead of the environment a lot of times.
That's absolutely right. And what they had mentioned with this company, what's so cool about our hair is that one strand can support up to 10 million times its own weight.
Isn't it
And as
incredible?
well as absorbing fat and hydrocarbons, it is water soluble and highly elastic due to its keratin fibers. And this is a really good example. When you pull out your hair and you kind of like tug on it, like it's strong, stronger
Yeah,
than what you would assume it to be because it's so thin, it's so light for the most part as
exactly.
an individual strand of hair. But when you look at these stats, that it supports 10 million times its own weight,
Hmm.
that's insane.
That's insane. That's incredible. So I love to see innovations like this, and I love to see things like this happen. And I think there's so much potential for innovation and invention and wonderful things on this planet that if we could turn our attention away from better ways to kill each other If we could stop being so good at war and instead focus our resources on this. I saw a meme the other day, and it was so truthful and so beautiful and so wonderful. It talked about the total population of the planet. And it said, what if all of us, what if that total population looked at each other with love and respect and the desire to do as much good for each other as we could, and to come together with that desire for humankind and for the planet as a whole? And I thought, oh God, isn't that the truth? But instead, we're looking for ways to build better bombs and, faster jets and on and on and on. So
and
frustrating.
and not just that, but finding ways to make more money as well. So at the end of the day,
Yeah,
it's all about that ego and greed, which is
yeah,
unfortunate, but it is the way that humanity runs.
it
And then
is.
that
It
could
is.
fall into the category of survival, right? You're going to have people that bring in that into your debate. And is
Yeah,
that possible? Yes, but at the same time, when we have these feelings of a compassion, of attempting to help others and feeling good about it, that in itself is it fulfills you. It
it
makes you
does. It
happy.
does.
I mean, how the times that you've done an act of kindness where no one expected you to do anything kind for someone, but
Right.
like you felt like you were given the opportunity to do so after you help that person, you feel good for like the
You feel
rest of the
good.
day. You have this
Yeah,
kind of high of like,
absolutely.
I just did
Absolutely.
something great today, right? And
And I
that
think,
wasn't egoic at all. It was
I think
selfless.
we also have to realize that if I go to Russia and I meet the average Russian on the street, they're probably not going to be antagonistic to me. We can probably go to a bar there in Russia or to a restaurant there and have a meal and talk and drink and laugh and find that we have that commonality. And I think that people all over the world can do that, but it's the governments of each country that set us against each other because there's profit in war, there's profit in leadership, there's profit in being a ruler, and all this gets out of control. And then to keep themselves in that position, it's, portraying the other as the boogeyman, and we've got to stop the boogeyman so that they don't destroy our way of life. Well, if you go all over the world, look what Anthony Bourdain did when he was alive. And he went and he met people all over the world, and he sampled all the world's cultures and all the world's foods. And it was like everywhere that he went, it was like people were the same. They all loved to eat. They all had jobs. They were all trying to get by. They all like basically the same things. And we're all this. We're all this oneness. And that's what people don't understand. And it's these divisions that people create and then governments foster and perpetrate that keep us at each other's throats. And it's like, I remember reading the story, and it's a true story. Um, I can't remember the exact date or the details or whatever, but it was some war, maybe been World War One, World War Two, I don't know what it was. But Christmas came, or Christmas Eve came, and the soldiers all declared a truce, and they all got out of their foxholes, and they all shared food and drink with each other, and they got out, somebody got out a soccer ball, I think it was, or whatever, and they all played soccer and this, that, and the other. So it was human with human with human. We're all the same. We're enjoying the same food. We're enjoying the same drink. We're enjoying fellowship. We're enjoying the same game. And then the truce was over, Christmas was over, whatever it was. They went back in their foxholes, started shooting at each other again. It's like, are you insane? So this is one of the things that we have to combat in all of this, and realize that we have this commonality. And when we start talking about the other and you know uh, demonifying the others, everybody's demonic, everybody's the enemy, everybody, one of the constant things that any society spreads about another society is that those people are baby eaters or baby sacrificers, or they do this horrible thing or that horrible thing, or they worship demons, or they do this or they do that. And if you go to any society that demonizes another, That's always the party line that comes out. And of course, those people do none of those things. But that's what's, propagated to the populace at large. And it's like these people are despicable. They do these horrible things. We have to stand against them and fight against them. And of course, they don't do those things. And so we have to understand that in large part, a lot of this is all politics, is all manipulated by greed. And I've said it a jillion times. I've said it on our shows, our talks together. If you had 10 people, they all had health, they all were good looking, they all had all the money they needed, they could buy any house they needed, have comfort, security, eat all the food they wanted to, buy any car they wanted to, go on vacation whenever they wanted to. One person out of those 10 would look at those other 9 and go, how can I control these suckers, and how can I get a portion of what they've got? It's like there's something lacking, in the human race and in the human mind. And that's the thing that we set up preachers and teachers and spiritual leaders and counselors and guides to lead us against, and to enlighten us that that's there. And here's how to overcome that. Don't be this way, be this other way. But, that's kind of lacking in society right now. We have skepticism, we have greed, we have hostility towards the other, whatever that is. And we have to realize that, we have commonality, and that's where we need to be going with all of this.
And one place that is pretty hostile, or two locations to be specific, is dealing with North and South Korea.
Oh, yeah.
And
Yeah.
this article is about a
Oh,
missile
boy.
test done
Yeah.
by the North. It freaked out the South, and
Yeah.
then it kind of turned out to be a UFO scare.
Right.
So,
Yeah. South Korea's military confirmed it test fired a solid fuel rocket Friday after its unannounced launch triggered brief public scare of a suspected UFO appearance or a North Korean missile launch. The Defense Ministry said in a statement that the rocket launch was part of its efforts to build a space-based surveillance capability and bolster its defense posture. It said it didn't notify the general public of the launch in advance because it involves sensitive military security issues. What is this? A UFO? I'm scared, said one Twitter user. Another said they suspected it was a North Korean missile launch and worried about a war. Others suspected it was a drone light show or a supernatural phenomenon. So that just goes to show that, when we see things in the sky, we do have this knee-jerk reaction, and it can be very terrifying. And I remember one time, one UFO researcher I saw, it was on this documentary I was watching, and he said that there was this elderly woman, and if she saw a plane in the sky, she didn't know what it was. So to her, that was a UFO, an unidentified flying object. And so, when people see something of this nature, like in the photograph here, it's like, well, what is that? Is it a UFO? Is it a missile launch? Is it a plane? Is
and
it
when
something?
you're scared is when you begin to point fingers, because just 5 days prior,
Exactly.
North Korea had flown drones over South Korea. So when they
Yeah.
saw this missile launch, they're like, oh my gosh, it's in their mentality. It's North Korea. We're going to
Here
have
it
a
is.
war.
It's the end of the world. We're
It's
at
the
war.
end of the
Yeah.
world for them.
Yeah.
And then you had someone that said, "Is this a UFO?" I am very scared because
Yeah.
it's classified as the unknown. But
Yep.
in reality, like you had mentioned, it was just a test. And that was all it was. And that information could not have been made public at the time of its launch because there was sensitive information involved. But
Right.
that, when something like that causes mass hysteria and
Yeah.
fear, it's dangerous.
It is. It is extremely dangerous because our natural inclination is to react. We have to protect ourselves. We have to protect our family. We have to protect our country. And, so those are the things that we have to watch out for. And it's like, I remember back remember when Y2K was the big thing?
It
And
was
all the planes were going to fall from the skies and everybody's missiles were going to launch because of a computer problem, this, that, and the other. And I had to put on my website at the time that Y2K will be a non-event. Nothing will happen. Life is going to go on as usual. Computers aren't going to crash. Planes aren't going to fall from the sky. Missiles aren't going to launch. And I did that because I went to our local grocery store where we lived at the time in upstate New York. we had a shopping center that was literally like a few blocks walk from our house. And I would walk there and you could get stamps, you could get donuts, you could get groceries, you could get anything on the planet in the shopping center. So I walked to the grocery store, and as I was checking out, the cashier's hands were visibly shaking. And she was like, do you think that the missiles are going to launch, that the Russian missiles, the computers are going to go out of control, and we're going to have nuclear war, all the missiles are going to launch and nobody's going to be able to do anything? And her hands were literally shaking as she was telling me this. And I was like, no, nothing is going to happen. We're going to be okay. It's going to be all right. But, you know, we have this thing, this fear that we go to, and this non-understanding of events. And so, you know, and there's some people that play that up, because remember back during, I think it was back in the 70s, there was periodically the planets all align and nothing frigging happens. The ice cream doesn't even melt. So back in I think it was the 70s, somewhere around in there, the planets were aligning as they occasionally do. And there were preachers saying it's the end of the world, the coming of Christ, the rapture is going to occur. There were scientists saying there's going to be cataclysm, the oceans are going to come out and drown the earth because of the gravitational pull from the planets. There were legitimate scientists saying this. This was in the news. There were people saying that this was the dawning of the age of Aquarius, and on and on and on and on and on. What happened? Not a damn thing. And the scientists said that the gravitational pull, the increase, was barely measurable. So we have all these things happen all the time, and we have to go, hey, look, you know. But, you know, like you say, our knee-jerk reaction is, oh my God, what's happening? And it must be an act of war. It must be something dangerous. It must be something alien. I got to take care of myself, my family, this and the other. You know, and Stanton Friedman said that for the way that we spend our money on Earth, that if an alien civilization did observe us, that the bulk of our expenditure is on battle, on war, and on tribal warfare. Us against the Russians, us against this, us against that, them against us, da, 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 da. And he said, in every new place that we go is some new frontier on which to do battle. And that's how we spend our wealth. And it's crazy. We all do that. And the sad thing is, look, if you read the news lately, I've been horrified by the news stories that I've read lately. There was a couple that like killed their kid and buried the child under the floorboards of their house.
Well, see, and that's why I thoroughly enjoy doing these shows, weekly strange news, where we step back from the dreadful news that we hear every day, but looking into the strange and the mysterious and the unexplained, or
And
also
a little
even the
bit
ones that are
lighthearted.
incredibly funny. Yeah, the
Yeah, a little
lighthearted
bit
ones as
lighthearted,
well, because
because
we
there's
all
just
get
so much
so
out there
been,
that, yeah,
yeah,
that's so
well,
crazy. It's so hurtful. And you know, it's like, my God, it inundates us and it overcomes us. And it's
we're
like,
so bombarded with negative news that
yeah,
people are tired of it. People don't
yeah,
want
they
to
are tired
hear
of it.
it.
And we need to understand, and we need to realize that there are positive things happening out there. And there are people trying to do good things and positive things. And I was watching some show on TV the other day, and it was talking about inventions. And they were talking about this simple little thing. I don't remember what it was. Some kind of latch or catch, or I don't remember what it was, but some simple little inexpensive thing. And the way the person had invented this and designed this had so many features that if this happened, it would do this, and this avoided this, and this. And I thought, somebody in their care to build this product built it with all these fail safes and with all this vision and all this foresight to make life better for us, that we could enjoy life better. And it's this little cheap, inexpensive thing. I think it was like less than $5, whatever it was. And it was like they put all this foresight into it, all this effort into it. And it's like, you know, used to, just to go to the point of what you were saying, we had programs that had more uplifting themes and more positive things and everything else. And now it seems like everything focuses on the bad and focuses on the negative. And it's not that it isn't there and it doesn't exist. It does, but that's all we're inundated with. That's all we get. And we don't ever get the story of somebody helping somebody or somebody doing this or somebody doing that. And it's very frustrating. And so I'm glad for these broadcasts because we have some laughs. We get to see a gator using a crosswalk, and we get to we get to talk about people calling 911 to help me move the house I'm burglarizing, things like that. So there are funny things out there, and we do have to keep a sense of humor in all of this. And it's just something that we need our commonalities, we need our positivity, and we need to focus on that and grow that in the years to come.
Exactly. Along with laughing keeps you young.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. The
That and a
Bible
lot
says,
of sugar.
the Bible says laughter doeth good, like a merry heart doeth good like a medicine. So, it's like that. That is what we need. And it doesn't mean that we don't acknowledge the reality of evil in the world, problems in the world, difficulties in the world. But what we need to do is realize that there is a greater good out there. And I think there is more positivity than there is evil out there. It's just not reported on. It's just not stated. It's just not
Because
made public.
it's not intriguing news.
It's
It's
not
not good
intriguing news.
enough news.
It's not like the old newspaper saying, if it bleeds, it leads.
That's right.
So if some guy gets gunned down by the mafia, that makes front page news. And in the meantime, some kid has run into a house where it was on fire and pulled everybody out and saved them. That's on page 10, maybe.
And the
When it
column
should
is
be,
this big.
the column's that big, exactly right. Where it should be on the front page, and half the entire page. So that's exactly where we're at, and we have the power to correct it, but we're not using that power, and we need to use that power.
Exactly. Well, John, this show has been so much fun, and we made it to 100 likes. Thank you, everyone, for watching this live. It
Bless
really does
you.
help YouTube
Yeah,
notice the show and
yeah,
to push it
yeah.
out there. So I want to say thank you so much for everyone watching this live and hitting the like button. John, I always appreciate you doing these shows with me.
Hey, I love being here with you. You're a delight. Our listeners are a delight. It's just great fun. We have great topics. We talk about things that aren't covered anywhere else,
That's
and
right.
I think that's important. And I think that there has to be some levity, even when you're talking about UFOs, the paranormal, psychic things. There has to be some levity there. There has to be some we can't just be gloom and doom and serious all the time.
That's right. John, where can people find you online?
JohnRussell.net. Go to JohnRussell.net. I've got over 80 client testimonials there. I've got media testimonials, my media appearances, my credentials, qualifications, so on and so forth. Links to my books are there. If you want to get my books and read them, I highly recommend that you do. You'll enjoy them.
You will.
And that's where you can find out more about me than you'll ever want to know.
And all of his social media links are below. John, I'm going to put you backstage, okay?
All right. Thanks.
Thank you for everyone watching today's show. Out of all the articles that we covered, which one was your favorite? I think for myself, the one that I found really funny was the one that John mentioned, and that was about how someone called 911 to burglarize the house and moving everything, and it's just so funny. Like that is a certain level of intelligence right there, and I find it just too much fun. But I would, as I had told John a little bit earlier, I thoroughly enjoy doing these shows, covering all of the strange news and stepping away from all of the depressing news that we see every single day in the newspapers, on the mainstream media, so on and so forth. But taking an hour and a half to talk about everything weird, UFOs, the paranormal, and just strange news in general, it it's nice to have this time with you. So I want to say thank you once again for everyone watching, everyone listening. Make sure to hit the like button on your way out, share it with those who have the same interest, and make sure to be safe. And remember, keep your eyes on the skies.